Good afternoon, students.
Good morning, madam. Good afternoon.
So, good afternoon, all. Let us start. Good
afternoon, madam.
So, today I just covered the last other 4 classes we have. So, in these 4 classes, I need to finish up the syllabus. So, I will be just going in a very brief manner. Let me cover all the topics, whatever are there in the syllabus. I have to explain you all the perspectives to the study of Indian society. So that I thought of taking either on Saturday or Sunday class, the last class. Okay. Now let us discuss like these. Let me just brief on these perspectives here. We have ideological textual perspective. We have structure functional perspective and Marxist perspective and the other civilization. Actually, these perspectives are how we can understand Indian society. Okay, in what way we need to understand the Indian society. For example, if we take ideological or textual approach here, the textual perspective approach here, it talks about something where we need to understand Indian society from its own culture. So we require to refer the text, whatever we have, like for example, we have the Puranas, we have the Upanishads, we have the Vedas, fine, we have the epics of the Indian system, the Hindu system. So when you just refer all those sacred texts and all those texts here, we may get a clear-cut idea of the functioning of the society. Okay, so this like something there which gives a knowledge about understanding the Indian society that we are going to talk about in the perspectives or the approaches we have in understanding Indian society. Then again, we have like when we take up the structure functionalism, so we are going to discuss about Dubé's contribution to structure functionalism in sociology, where they usually try to take us to the structure of the Indian society and the functions of the institutions which are there in the Indian society. Okay, so we try to concentrate on the caste and its contribution or its function towards the maintenance of the society, or its role in the functioning, or its role in the maintenance of the society or running of the society. So like we are going to talk about all these perspectives in one class, but let me today start with the other topic, social structure of the Indian society. Okay, social structure. So what is this social structure actually? In this structure, we are going to discuss rural agrarian social structure, caste system, and the features of the caste system here, and again tribal communities in Indian society. Then we have the social classes in agrarian class, industrial societies, and middle class system in Indian society. Then we are going to discuss family, marriage, and kinship in India, and religious composition. So let me today at least let me brief on this social structure. Okay. Hope you all are hearing me. My voice is audible today. Is it okay? Please just let me know. Okay. Now, what is this rural and agrarian social structure? Usually when we talk about Indian society has the different other communities, right? Okay. Like when you talk about Indian society, when I say there are different many communities, we usually take about the rural community as the backbone of the Indian society. Okay. Rural communities are the backbone of the Indian society, and usually they represent the villages of India represent the Indian society. Okay. I repeat once again, the social structure. We are discussing today the first topic, and I will be touching with all the topics today here. So the rural society and the agrarian society. Okay. The rural structure is something where you're talking about the little communities, the small communities, usually the just the village communities here, and India is represented by the villages. I tried to. Okay. So villages are usually the backbone of the rural communities are the backbone of the Indian societies. Okay. But actually, why we are saying they are the backbone of the rural communities usually, how people in rural communities live, and what is this agrarian social structure? Okay. Rural communities, we are talking as a very simple communities, a small community. We also refer it as a village community. Okay? And as when you take about the village community, we all know that in general awareness we have that we know that village communities are very simple, depend upon agriculture. So it is an agrarian system. Okay. They usually the backbone of the community is agrarian. The primary source of income is from agriculture here. And people are very simple. Population is also very simple here. We have a very small communities also based. We have also the small communities based on the agriculture, and the other source of income may be cattle rearing, and also they have in few communities, rural communities, we also have the caste professions running here. So this is one
Shana, please mute yourself.
The next we come across what is called the village communities. Usually we represent with the homogeneous community. Village community antene, rural communities antene, it is the homogeneous community where all the people, all village community people usually commonly share the norms, conditions, the belief systems, the sentiments. Very commonly, they usually have all these things in common. Okay. So, and this which usually people in the village community or the rural community have what is called the we feeling, the consciousness which brings that we feeling that yes, these are my people, my village community people, my community members, right? So that we feeling is usually there among the village people or the rural communities, which again in turn consequentially gives the unity among those village community people. Okay. So I repeat once again, rural communities are the backbone of the Indian society, and usually we represent villages with the Indian system. Okay, the villages represent the Indian society. When I say rural communities are the backbone of the Indian society, the revenues or the capital, the per capita income usually we raise from the agriculture. But usually when you talk about the rural communities, Indian system is totally now, not now, but earlier, people, most of the time, 70% of the population depended on agriculture. So because almost at that time when we took our independence, our agriculture was not developed at that time. Okay, so later we formed our own government. We took our own planning system. Then we formulated different many developmental plans and all. So we are able to say that yes, our agriculture is developed one. When I say rural communities are the small communities, very small communities, fine, compared to the urban communities which are there in the Indian society. Okay, so we always take it in a comparative analysis, fine. So when rural communities are the small communities, we also represent it, we also use the term called village communities here. So why it is small? When you say when it is small, the population size in the village communities are very small. Say, for example, even 1,000 members also form as a village community. Also 1,000 or 10,000, the biggest communities may be around 10,000, the population size. When you compare a city has more than that number. Population size is very large in the city communities. So rural communities are the small communities, and they also are called by the homogeneous nature. So they have the homogeneous nature. What is this homogeneous nature? Homogeneous nature antene, all the people who live in the rural communities are very simple people, and usually they are very what is called very bounded with all the sentiments, the belief systems, and they all together share all the norms, conditions in common. So everyone shared the same common norms, regulations, rules, and also at the same time the sentiments and the belief systems. So that's the reason why they are united together. They have that we feeling, consciousness that belonging to that particular community అనేది వాళ్ళలో ఉంటుందన్నమాట. See, మా వాళ్ళు, మా ఊరు వాళ్ళు అనే ఒక identity they usually represent wherever they go outside of that particular village. So this unity, this bond among those community people usually brings the unity among that particular community, and we feeling the consciousness which always there in innertly among those community people. And this is one aspect of understanding rural community. And whenever I say agriculture is the backbone and agriculture is the main source of income, the primary source of income in the village community is agriculture only. Other than agriculture, they have cattle rearing also. Sometimes most of the people, different family members also go for the cattle rearing, and at the same time, animal husbandry is there, and at the same time, we come about also caste professions still running in the village communities. So these are the few income sources we usually refer to with the rural communities. But now, so of course, there are few industries coming up even in the rural communities. But when you trace the traditional Indian society and the rural structure, these are the few things we have. About to homogeneous nature and agriculture as the main source of income, we also come across where caste functions as the major important aspect in the rural community. People are identified with the caste status only. So you are Palana Antene, you belong to that particular caste, you belong to another caste. Like everyone are identified with the caste status. When I say people in the rural communities are identified with the caste gives no other mobility in the that particular social structure. And then when you born in a particular caste, you're going to live in the caste, you're going to die in that particular caste. Okay, there is no possibility to bring any elevation in your caste status. So that means when you're born as a Sudra, you're going to die as a Sudra. So there is no mobility in the social structure of the village community. Social mobility is absolutely absent in the village communities. This is what the other feature we are discussing here. Then other than this, usually most of the people, we find that they're very simple and down to earth. Okay, they're very, very simple. All the fashions, all the new heterogeneous cultures, the fashions and the new modifications, modernization values, all this has a very late entry to the village community. So immediately they don't accept the new values or the new things immediately into their life. It may take a very long time for them to understand and accept into their own lives. So that is where they are mostly traditional bound and they have their own unique culture. So they have that standby with that particular culture and immediate changes is not possible among the rural community people. Now, coming down to the agrarian social structure. So when you talk about agrarian social structure, it is purely we are talking about the peasant communities in the agrarian social structure who is totally depending upon the agriculture and their major source of income is from the agriculture. And you find the peasant communities ranging from the big farmer and also we have the marginal farmers and also the very small farmers, the very big farmer also. So like, for example, more than 10 acres, more than 30 acres a day, usually that particular peasant is called as a big farmer who has a very big tract of land for the cultivation. And their major part of the income raised from the agriculture itself. So he's a very big farmer and he may lease the land to the landless labor, the landless farmers also. And around 5 to 10 acres under marginal farmers. Okay. And below that, below 5 acres of land, a person is owning in the rural community or the agrarian structure. That means he's a small farmer. Small farmer has a very small tract of land for the cultivation. Why am I talking about marginal and the big farmer and the small farmer? Because we are talking about the agrarian social structure. Agrarian social structure represents the peasant communities only. So peasant communities, we have different types of peasant here. We have the Mazdoor who is working for the big farmers in their land. And we have what is called the small farmers, the middle farmers, marginal farmers and the big farmers also. And then depending upon the land you are holding, the tract of land you are holding, then that decides whether you are a big farmer, marginal farmer or a small farmer. Okay. So agrarian social structure purely is about the peasant communities. Okay. Now, we come across the caste system. Just now I said that rural communities, the major social stratification system, the identity of a person goes with the caste. Okay, when you talk about caste system here, how do we define caste here? What is the definition? How can we understand the caste system? Caste, usually, according to C.H. Pule, when a class of a person, when a class status of a person becomes hereditary, then we call it as a caste system. I repeat once again. A very simple definition I'm giving. When, according to C.H. Pule, when a class status of a person becomes hereditary, then we call it as a caste system. That means hereditary system law, you're giving your own status, income status, your class status. Class status ni you're passing on to your generations to generation, your other new generation. When you're passing on that particular status, that means that passage you are giving, you're talking about the generations who are taking the same class status, then that can be termed as caste status or the caste system. And hereditary process lo unnappudu, when you're saying that yes, my status is given to my children and their children, that generation is going to pass on the same status to the new generation, ante then hereditary you're passing the status in the society. That means you're saying that there is something, the system called caste. Okay, so the class becomes caste when it is hereditary ani CH Gule chepparanamata. But when you talk about caste, it is purely, it says that a group of people, how to understand caste, a group of people who are occupying the same social status in the structure, in the social system, occupying the same social status, and at the same time they have a common identity in the social structure of the social system, and they have, all these group of people commonly follow a common profession. So they profess a common profession, and at the same time they follow the common ritual practices, and at the same time they have the common sentiments and the belief system toward that particular community. So this usually, and their status is given in, because they're born in the community, because they're born in that particular family. So because they're born in the family, they're automatically given the caste status. Because they are in that particular community, the group, they are given the profession. So they need not work hard, or they need not go out of the group in search of any employment. So because they're born in the community, they are given the profession. So you can just survive your life and your family with that particular practicing the profession itself. And you and your other members of that community or your group are given the same social status. So same identity will be given. Okay, so this is where in common we find that the status is common, profession is common, and you practice the same ritual practices. You are given a name in the society. All this is common. So you say this is the caste system. Okay. Now, what are the features of the caste? How caste is functioning actually? There are a few features here. That means features means that's how the caste is functioning. Okay, you identify that yes, this is caste and chapporaniki కొన్ని characteristics ఉంటాయి. What are they? So actually it starts with where there is certain rules for the caste system. So it starts with the endogamy. Caste is an endogamous group. Endogamy ante a person born in a particular group he has to select his own mating partner, that is a marriage partner from the same caste community. So that means there is no permission for the person to go out of the group. Select another person from out of the group is not highly impossible. This is not permitted in the caste system. So caste is very strict. But we are saying that a person born in a particular caste community need to select his own partner, his or her partner from the same caste community. So this is caste endogamy. Okay, so it is what's called very strictly and restricted to the caste communities only. The selection of the mating partner is restricted to your own caste community. Fine. Of course, there are certain sanctions where you go with when a person go out of the caste, selecting a intercaste or some other caste member, then you will be punished in the rural communities. Okay, so rural community caste function usually in the rural communities, they don't accept the intercaste marriages and all. So usually you have the sanctions. That means you will be either socially boycotted from the caste group, or you will be socially boycotted from the village community itself. So that kind of punishments are there. Of course, we practically also experience many different case studies with the intercaste marriages and all. So that's how we say that caste is functioning as a endogamous group. The other one is caste is hereditary. That means how do you get caste? Is it through hard work? Is it through some kind of degree? No. Because you're born in a particular family, automatically your parents and your family members are giving that status. So automatically, because just birth in the community, birth in the family, you are given with the status of the caste. So it says that it is something hereditary until your parents are giving you the caste status. Okay, so you need not work hard for getting this kind of status. So automatically the birth is giving you the caste status, and after a few long years, you are going to give it to your own generation, your new generation, your caste status. So this is how you're passing on through from generation to generation through hereditary. You're getting the caste status. Fine. Then again, caste is hierarchical. What do we understand by hierarchical status of the caste here? It says that caste is hierarchical because caste places few persons in one community, few persons in some other status, few persons in some other status. So we have Indian caste system where we come across the four stratums, the four layers in the caste. Fine. The upper layer is occupied by the Brahmins, the Kshatriyas, and the Vaishyas, and the Sudras. So four stratums are there in the caste. So one is placed in Brahmin, one is placed in Kshatriya, one other in Vaishyas, and the other in the Sudra community. So usually these are the four stratums we identify with the caste. So hierarchical placement, one above the other, one below the other. Okay, one above the other, one below the other. That means all the four layers are placed in a vertical position. So vertical position, in just now I said that there is no social mobility. Absence of social mobility we experience in the caste. So social mobility lekapote, there is no change in the caste status. Okay, a Brahmin cannot become a Sudra, Sudra cannot become a Vaishya, or nor a Vaishya can become a Brahmin. Okay, so such kind of movement from caste is not possible. Elevation of the position is not possible in the caste status. Fine. So this is hierarchical placement in the caste system. Then again, we have the taboos, certain restrictions. What are the restrictions? Restrictions for intercaste marriages. You cannot select a partner from the outside group. Restriction that no entry is given to outside members into your group. This is not possible. And at the same time, restriction with regard to drink and dine. Okay, there is no, you cannot sit with each and every person for the dining. Fine. So food taboos are there. You can eat certain things and you cannot eat. You are restricted for eating some other items here. So Brahmins, for example, we all know that Brahmins are the non-eaters of the what is called non-vegetarians. Fine. So they are purely the vegetarian. They should restrict themselves for the vegetarian food. Fine. And the other communities have, they have some other restrictions of the food. And at the same time, interdining is not possible. So if only traditional interdining is not possible, intercaste is not possible. At the same time, drinking and dining is certain restrictions we have. Food intake is there are certain restrictions. We usually go with the purity and impurity in the caste status, the caste system. Purity and impurity, and the touching of a person makes a person impure, and the shadow of falling with the other person makes a person impure. So when you become an impure, you can go for making through ritual practices, some kind of practices, you become purity by cleaning yourself. So all these are there in the caste system, and how this is how caste is functioning in Chakos. And of course, now what we experience is there are some kind of modifications in the caste because of some external and internal factors which are impacting the Indian social structure. Okay. So now what are the modifications I think we can experience in the social change? We have that lesson in the paper. Okay. So this is how, these are the few very brief discussion on the caste features. Now we come across what is called caste law, we come across the untouchability practice. Okay, so when you just trace back the Indian traditional system, the caste system, these are the four stratums I said. Till Sudra community I said. But the Panchamas are there. Panchamas, the fifth community is there. The fifth community is totally away from the caste system. Okay, so they are out of the caste segments. Right? So this segment lo manaki fifth caste kanpinchadu, but fifth caste Panchama kulaloni untayi. If Panchamas are usually we identify them as the untouchable caste of the Dalit communities. Okay. Dalit communities are untouchable. So why they are the untouchable? Because they are away from the mainstream of the society. Okay. So because they are away from, they don't have the culture. They are not imbibed in these particular cultures. When they are living in the village, they could have imbibed the culture of the village community people. But there is no entry for the people into the village community property. They did not get that particular, they are not socialized with all these cultures. So that's how they are kept aloof. Fine. Not only this, but at the same time, the professions they usually profess, the what's called the professions they are in, usually they carry the dead bodies, they bury the dead bodies. They usually their profession is to stay in the graveyards. So they take up the work which is there in the graveyard and they clean the toilets and all. So this is making them polluted. Okay. So, and usually because they don't have the culture and they're not that clean persons. So this is all usually in the traditional communities, so traditional system. So because they are not clean person, they are not touched by the other community people. So this is wrong, but actually this practice was there in the Indian society. Untouchability, touching these community make the other community people impure. So how far this is really practically justifiable, that we leave it to our own senses and all. Okay, so that's a different matter. But again, we come across the other topic called tribal communities in India. India is not only survived with all the rural and the urban communities, but the third community we have is the tribal communities. Usually, tribal communities are the uncivilized communities. I repeat once again. We have three different communities in Indian society. When we trace the major important thrust areas in the Indian society, we have the rural communities, also the urban communities, and also the tribal communities. So what are the tribals here? I just know we discussed about the rural communities. And on the other corner, we have the tribal communities. Tribals are Adivasis, the Adima Jatis. We call the constitutional names, which usually we traditionally, when you trace back, the other names for the nomenclatures given to the tribal communities are Adivasis, Adima Jatis, and Antamamata. Adivasis, they are the uncivilized communities. They don't have the civilization because they live in the forest areas and the mountainous regions. Okay, so because they are aloof, they are in isolation, they lead their life. When they are in isolation, they don't know the culture and the living patterns of the civilized communities. So that's the reason why they are uncivilized communities. Okay, now what are the tribal community? How do they live? What is their social conditions? What are the cultural conditions of the tribal communities? Are they different from our own culture? Are they different from what civilization, what we have? They have the same practices in their own communities. When I talk about tribal communities in India, usually we have the developed tribals and also the undeveloped tribals also. But when you trace back the traditional Indian system, almost all the tribal communities are the backward communities and the undeveloped communities. But at the same time, of course, every tribe is a unique tribe. So say, for example, if we have 200 tribes in Indian society, all 200 tribes are, each and every independent tribe is a unique tribal community. The features you find in one particular tribal community that you may not find in the other tribal community. And the tribals have their own unique languages also. Good afternoon, please. Tribals have their own unique languages. Every tribe have their own language. Okay, every tribe have their own spoken languages. Fine. I just start with the tribal community features here. Now, I said we discussed just now about the caste system. Okay, caste is the civilized community. Caste has its own features. It is hereditary. It is identifying the person. It gives a status to the people in the society. Okay, it has a profession attached to that caste status. Everything we have studied now. Right? When you come down to the tribal community, when you compare the tribal community with the non-tribal communities, okay. Now, when you take up a tribal in isolation, the tribal communities, very uniquely, when you talk about the tribal community, tribe is an uncivilized in Japan. That means they don't have the letters, they are not the literate persons, and they don't even know the highest culture, whatever we are practicing in our own culture, okay, in our own communities. But at the same time, you can take the tribal community, compare them with the primitive people. Okay, the tribal communities, the backward, the most tribal community which is backward, you can compare their culture, their social conditions, economic conditions with the most primitive people of our Indian system, of our societies. Okay, primitive people are uncivilized. Primitive people are totally not developed communities. Okay, now when you talk about the tribal communities in India presently, they are the most backward communities and they live in the forest areas, taking up either shifting lands agriculture. They depend upon either agriculture or horticulture, or they still go for hunting the animals. The most remote areas from Nambu, they still depend upon the hunting of the animals in the forest areas, or sometimes tribals also practice fishing activities. Okay, so the major source of income, they have the supplementary income levels. Okay, major source of income, their economic condition, the economy is based on either horticulture, raising the gardens on the other things, depending upon the edible fruits and the other fruits here, fine. Or mostly మనకి ఏమంటాం వెరికల్చర్స్ ఉన్నాయి, సెరికల్చర్స్ ఉన్నాయి కదా, ఈ మన ఏమంటాం హనీ, ఇది హనీ పెంచి హనీని తీసి దాంతో మనం ఇన్కమ్ రేస్ చేయడం, ఇట్లాంటివి కూడా ఉన్నాయి అన్నమాట. Not only this, but at the same time, they also, most of the tribal, they have the source of income raised from pastoral communities. So in India, pastoral communities, pastoral means depending upon the cattle rearing, either the buffaloes or the cattle, the sheep and the other raising here. So mostly pastoral communities, so they depend upon the milk which they get from the cattle and the other items prepared from the milk. Okay, that's maybe major source of income, and simultaneously they go for agriculture also. If they depend upon agriculture, usually most of the tribals practice shifting acts agriculture. Okay, shifting acts agriculture means for 1 year they use the land for the agriculture, and after completion of the harvesting season, they totally burn whatever the grass or the whatever left over in the land. They totally burn that left over in the land. So the ashes which are thrown over, spread over in the land, after which they don't use the land for that particular on the next season for the agriculture. They shift again to other land. Okay, and they make use of the new land for agriculture, cultivation purpose. After raising the crop from the other land for the next season, again the same thing is repeated. They burn the remains in the land, and the ashes will be left in the same land. Okay, again they come back to this land, the first land in the country. The ashes make the land fertile. Okay, so because tribal communities are backward community, they don't have the knowledge of scientific knowledge or using the fertilizers into the agriculture land. Okay, in the practice of agriculture. So it is purely the traditional mode of production. I repeat once again, tribal community, they never use any kind of fertilizers into the land for the agriculture practices. So they usually base agriculture practice on the traditional mode. So very simple agriculture practice and the traditional mode of agriculture practice. Kabatti, and whatever they raise, the crop or any kind of items which they raise from the agriculture, it is only for the consumption process. So subsistence agriculture is practiced by the tribal community. I repeat once again, whatever crop they raise from agriculture, it is only for their use purpose, for their own consumption purpose. Until we usually say that tribal agriculture is only subsistence agriculture. Their economy is subsistence economy. Until whatever they raise from either horticulture or from fishing activity or from pastoral or agriculture, it is only for the usage of the community purpose. And trading, selling it for the outer community, it is not possible. So because they don't make use of any technology into all these practices, whatever they raise is only in a very small level, small production, very small production. Okay. And at the same time, profit motive is not present in the tribal economy. Until whatever there is, surplus production is not possible among the tribal community. So when there is no surplus production, there is no profit motive also. Subsistence and poverty, it is only raised for their own consumption purpose. Other than this, among the tribal communities, we come across the social conditions. What are the social conditions they have? Usually they have a very unique culture. That culture you don't find out of that particular community. Okay, you cannot trace that culture outside of the tribal community. So they have their own unique culture. Say for example, if the Lambaras are there, the Eripala are there, the Oreo tribes are there, the Thodas are there, the Bills are there. Every tribe has their own unique culture. Whatever practices they develop, their tradition, according to their traditional practices, they usually, it is among that particular bills or that particular tribal community, you find those practices. Okay. But usually most of the tribals are the backward communities we have, and their practices are traditional mode practices only. So they have their own marriage, unique marriage rules, regulations. Right? Most of the tribals practice polyandry system, and few communities also practice polygamy system. Fine. At the same time, we come across, as I said, mostly dominating it is the polyandry system, where women dominates the society. Women is the major decision maker in the communities, and women marries more than one time. So she maintains more than one husband. Okay, polyandry system, matriarchal system, you find among the tribal communities. Okay, so property is given to the daughters, not to the sons. Okay, so like these few communities, we have matriarchal system and women-dominated families, and also women-led families. Okay. So this is purely, now after constitutional framework, we come across when Indian system has started with the planning system in order to bring development. Of course, Indian government has taken up major decisions with regard to bringing all these undeveloped, denotified tribal communities to bring them to the mainstream of the society. So they want to just lift them up, to give them most of the welfare programs are formulated. Welfare programs are taken up by the central government and also the state governments in order to lift them and also give them different many measures to change themselves and to better their conditions and take up education, also join different many professions and the employment in the central as well as the state government. So of course now tribals are developing themselves. They are utilizing the welfare programs or the subsidies, whatever is being given by the government. And now we can say that most of the tribals are into the mainstream of the society. Okay. Now, of course, even we can trace the most remotest tribal community, the most primitive communities even today in the Indian society. Okay. Now, other than that, we have the social classes in India: agrarian class structure, industrial class structure, middle class in India. And again, we come across family, marriage, and kinship. Yeah. What is this social class? When I say the traditional Indian society, we just went with the identification of the caste status only. But when modification started, when modernization society, the change we Indian people started experiencing social change. That means the whole societal changes we started experiencing. So these changes not only brought about a transition from the agrarian social structure to the modern industrial structure. Okay, so we transited from the agrarian social structure. Just now I said in the agrarian social structure we go with the bigger farmer, the big farmers, the marginal farmer, and the lower farmers. So that means usually we try to divide it as the zamindari people and the labor class people. That is the farmers who don't have the land itself. Okay, and these peasant communities, we come across the zamindars, the peasants, and the farmers who don't own the land. Okay, usually agrarian social structure, we come across the mazdoors, the labor community people, and also the farmer communities. The peasant community, we try to divide in this way. Okay, so the mazdoors are who work in the lands of the big peasants, the big farmers. Okay, and moreover, you find whatever the social structure, agrarian class structure you come across. So usually we try to take it as the peasant communities, the big peasant and the small peasant here. And other than that, we come across the farmers who are not owning the land, who only work in the agriculture, who work in the lands of the big farmers. So they are the meager income source people. So they are the farmers with no land, and they just own the labor of their people, their own community. Okay. Other than this now there is a transition from agrarian class structure to the modern industrial structure. So when we came down to the industrial structure, like that, when India started the industrialization process, okay. So now we started also setting up of all the industries. Of course, the establishment of industry started. So now the transition started, like where people started migrating from the agrarian structure to the industrial structures. Okay, so villages వదిలేసి ఇండస్ట్రీస్ వస్తున్నారు, సిటీస్ వచ్చేస్తున్నారు అనమాట. సో వచ్చినప్పుడు మార్పు ఎలా ఉంది, మనకి ఏ రకమైనటువంటి మార్పును వీఆర్ ఎక్స్పీరియన్సింగ్ హియర్. సో we started experiencing people joining the industries and taking up some kind of employment opportunities in the industry. So now where we try to usually take up as class system. For industries, now we are not identifying with either the peasant community or the caste structure, the traditional period, but we are identifying the status of the person with class status. Class depends upon the income of a person. I repeat once again, instead of taking up the status with caste identity or agrarian structures, what we have seen is the peasant communities, the peasant status here. Okay. But instead of taking all those traditional type of status, now because there is a transition wherein we are experiencing some changes in the Indian social structure, changes because of some kind of external and internal factors which are impacting the Indian structure, we started experiencing changes. Modifications, now we have given a way for industrialization process. Industrialization process started we started setting up of the industries. The major part of the people who were working with agriculture got shifted to industry. Very speedily. So, Britishers administration pieces, we started formulating different many policies, and our plan system is there. We have fixed up the development of the target. So, in order to reach the target, what are the things we require to do? And we went with different many models and the strategies. So, one of the models says that one of the strategies talks about rapid industrialization. Industrialization started in the what we experienced is people migrated from the village community and they settled themselves in the industrial areas. So industries, people came down to the industries. But now, what is the identification we are giving to these industrial people here who entered into the industries? The identification went with the income they earned in the industrial structure, in the industries. Whatever income they are earning, according to the income, their class is fixed. Okay, I repeat once again. Now, in the industrial sectors, industrial class structure, we are identifying the person not with the caste, but we are identifying the person with the class. The class status we are giving. Class ante vargamu. Vargam ela vastundi. వర్గం అనేది ఒక వ్యక్తికి వస్తున్నటువంటి జీతంని బేస్ చేసుకొని ఆయనకు ఉన్నటువంటి ఇన్కమ్ ని బేస్ చేసుకొని వర్గాన్ని ఇస్తాం అన్నమాట. సో వీఆర్ గివింగ్ ద క్లాస్ స్టేటస్ based on the income of a person. The income decides the class of a person. Okay, income decides the class of a person. Say for example, I am working as a director in the industry, or I'm working as I'm getting an income of 1 lakh rupee. So my income is 1 lakh. So my status will be the upper class. Okay. My income is 1 lakh. My status will be upper class. If my income is 50,000, below 50,000, my status is middle class. Okay. If my income is 10,000, 20,000, below 20,000, my status is low class. Okay. That means based on the income, why we are attaching income to the class? Okay. Because accordingly, your life chances and lifestyles changes. For 1 lakh rupee jeetam unte, 1 lakh income unte, according to 1 lakh status, 1 lakh upper class status, you maintain the car, the attire you wear, fine. And the chances you get hold of, okay, the opportunities you can get hold of, all this depends on your 1 lakh income. Okay, so laksha jeetam you can go for availing different things. You can purchase a big car, you can purchase a big bungalow, fine. You can go for a big utilizing the opportunities. But when you come down to 50,000 rupees, the 50,000 earning person cannot avail all the opportunities, isn't it? They cannot avail all the opportunities. He can just go according to his income. So the lifestyle and the life chances changes according to it is varying from according to the income status of a person. So industrial social structure industrial class structure you are given class status, but rather than the caste status. Okay. Now, next we come across middle classes in India. Most of the time when you talk about middle class anagane oka identification, oka identity, oka gurtinpu. What do we understand by middle class? Middle classes are usually middle classes are according to the class structure. We have the income level which is below 50,000. ఇప్పుడు ఉన్నటువంటి ప్రస్తుత పరిస్థితిలో below 50,000 లోపు ఉంటే మిడిల్ క్లాస్ పీపుల్. మిడిల్ లో కూడా మళ్ళీ అప్పర్ మిడిల్ అండ్ లోవర్ మిడిల్ ఉంటుంది అనమాట. అప్పర్ మిడిల్ అంటే 50,000 ఇన్కమ్, లోవర్ మిడిల్ అంటే 30,000 ఇన్కమ్. It may also change. Income level also changes also. Okay, so middle class ante they have a very particular unique type of lifestyle. Middle class ante oka rakamayనటువంటి జీవన విధానము జీవిత అవకాశాలతో అనుకొని ఉంటాం అన్నమాట. సో యూజువల్లీ వి గో విత్ దిస్ కైండ్ ఆఫ్ ఐడెంటిఫికేషన్. సో మిడిల్ క్లాస్ అనగానే ఎస్ యావరేజ్ ఇన్కమ్ లెవెల్, utilization is not that bigger. Okay, you cannot go for availing each and everything, and you have a very special identification in the society. Why? Because in the growing modernization, majority belong to, they fall in the middle class identity. Okay. Now, next topic we have is family, marriage, and kinship. What do we understand by family, marriage, and kinship? Of course, when you talk about any social system, in my introduction class, I said that we have different many institutions, and among these institutions, we have family, marriage, and also kinship and other institutions. So these three institutions are usually presupposes, precondition the other institution. Ante oka family undalante marriage should be there, and of course marriage undante family vastundi, kinship automatically vastundi annamata. Atla when you want to set up a family, there should be marriage institution. Why? Because a legal approval, a sanction in the society, the approval of the persons to become husband and wife or enter into the marital bond, you require some kind of what is called the hallmark or the sanction. So for that, we require marriage as an institution. What is a family? Family is, it is something, a unit of members who are united, who are taking the bond of the marital system. Okay, so say for example, if two strangers entering into the marital bond, they are entering into an agreement or they are entering into a bond called marriage. It is a union, union of these two strangers, a male and a female, for a very long enduring relationship. Marriage is a very long enduring relation, enduring and everlasting. It just goes up to the death of the person. Okay, it's a very enduring relationship where you're entering into, and it is such that marriage says that in this particular institution, it says that these are the two status we are giving, the status of husband and the status of wife. So you have towards each other certain responsibilities, certain duties, and some kind of rights over each other. So husband has certain responsibility, duties towards the wife. So also wife has certain responsibilities and duties towards, and also rights over the husband. So this is how when you're entering the bond of a marriage, you're setting up a unit of family. So usually kinship terminology, we call it as the family of procreation. When you start up a new family with your husband or your partner, you say that it is a family of procreation. The family you are born in, where you lived your life with your parents or your other siblings here, that is called as family of orientation. Okay, two families. Family of procreation is a new family where you set up with your partner. Okay, then you just continue your life. You just start your life in the family of procreation. But when you're in the family in which you are born is called family of orientation. Okay, then at the same time we have family. Many types of families are there. Family anagani, a unit of mother, father, and their children. Usually, mother, father, husband, wife, and their children comprise a unit of family. Okay. Family anagane, we come across different types of families. What are the different types of families we have in Indian society? The traditional family lo manaki joint families, and the present modern system lo we have only the nuclear families. So joint family antene, it says that there are at least 3 generations of families live together. 3 generation families live in that particular family unit. Ante grandparents, their children, and their children. Okay, and belonging to one line of descent, belonging to one line of descent. Unilinear descent people usually live together. Joint family lo one line of descent ante either matriarchal or patriarchal. Usually India goes with the patriarchal system, father-headed, male-headed families. Okay, male-headed families kabatti everything goes from the father's side. Lineage will be given, the name of the person's children, the identity, everything will be given from the father's side. Okay, so you're identified as the son of so and so, the daughter of so and so. Okay, then property is also shared. Property is also the father's property, earned property will be given to the sons only. Intaku mundu kani ippudu kotta verdict vachai kabatti now equal share is given to the daughters also. Fine. patriarchal system, usually it is given to, handed over to only the sons, fine. That's one, usually why? Because the sons continue the lineage property, that is the importance given to the sons, and also handing over the property. Other than this, but we come across also the modern families, the nuclear families. In the nuclear families, it's a small family where you usually talk about only husband, wife, and their children. Very small family, either one or two children. Okay. So, manaki cities lo kanpistunnaటువంటి families anta kuda nuclear families. We don't have, even in the rural areas also, now there are no joint family structure. Joint family at least 50 members, 60 members, depending upon the children they have. Petta families anamata. So joint family anagane, how are the features of the, what are the features of the joint family? Everything will go in joint. Okay, common residence, common properties. Okay, individual properties in the joint family lo. Common property and it is on the name of the head of the family. Okay, and there is no sharing of the property among the children. So it just goes with the name of the head of the family only. Fine. Common properties, common housing, common kitchen. Everyone have a common kitchen only. So 50 members in the, all 50 members eat the same food because common kitchen poverty. So this is how where usually we had the joint family in the traditional system. Now we cannot face a joint family in the Indian society. Of course, here and there we may have a few joint families till now also, because we are still continuing the traditional community culture poverty. We may have here and there the joint family systems. But no, what are the functions of the family? Family only, why should there be a family? What role the family members are playing towards the individual? So family is very important for any child. Why? Because socialization function takes place in the family. What is socialization? A child is learning all the culture, the do's, don'ts, good, bad, everything. The child is inculcating, he is learning how he should behave, what he should eat, with whom he should interact. ఇవన్నీ కూడా మంచి చెడు అన్ని కూడా ఫ్యామిలీలో పుట్టిన పిల్లాడు నేర్చుకుంటాడు కాబట్టి this is socialization process. This is purely done by the family members. And the first agent of socialization is mother. Why? Because immediately after the birth of the child, it is the mother who is having the interaction with the child. Okay, so that's where how the child is attached to the mother and then the other members of the family. And other than family, we come across a peer group as one of the agent of socialization. Samana vayasukula పిల్లలు ఉంటారు కదా, ఫ్రెండ్స్ గ్రూప్ అనమాట, పీర్ గ్రూప్ అంటే. సో ఈవెన్ అమాంగ్ ద ఫ్రెండ్స్ గ్రూప్ also the child is socializing himself, and then the child comes to the school after 3 years or 2.5 years. The child is entering the school. The school is also one of the agent of socialization. So while learning in the school, also while playing with the friends, while interacting with the teacher, or when hearing to the lessons and all, the child is socializing. So socialization process, such a process where it just goes on, ever-ending process until the death of the person, the socialization process continues. So family is major important function is socialization function. Other than socialization function, we come across the biological functions and the social functions, recreational functions, and economic functions. Economic function ante everything, all kinds of needs are fulfilled in the family itself. So for that you require the financial assistance. Financial assistance your father or your mother is giving to the child. Okay, that means every economic need of the child, the education of the child, the payment of the fees, the clothing of the child, the food requirement of the child, every protection, economic protection, financial protection is given by the parents to the child. Okay, so this economic function is also performed by the family. So that's how we require family, very important institution. Not only economic function, social function, your religious performances, your religious rituals, to which religion you belong. This identity is given to you by your family. Your performances, your worshipping pattern, everything you get it from your family. Your elderly persons are saying that yes, this is how you perform your pujas or your worshipping system or your prayers. So you are getting trained in the family. Okay. Then at the same time, you are given a social status. The identity, falana person, that means you are a child of a so-and-so person. That identity you are given in the society. Otherwise, nobody recognizes a person without any identification. Okay, so some kind of identity, that social status is given by the parents itself. Either your caste status or your class status, whatever status you have, that is because of your family being. And other than this, we also talk about the recreational function. Usually in the traditional family law, joint family law, when we never had the clubs and the pubs or the theaters at that time. Okay, so there were no associations at that time. So the child used to get relaxed. The child used to get recreated. The child used to learn all the values in the family itself. All the elderly person at that time, because big family poverty, or either the uncle, aunt, or the grandparents, they used to recreate the child. And every now and then they had some kind of occasion, some kind of get together, some performances in the family. So all this has become a recreation function given by the family for the children. But now, of course, there are changes. We usually child goes to a club or a pub or some theaters. The child goes to some garden, some kind of picnic by the parents. So this kind of recreation is given to the child. Okay, so this is where a transition type of family we choose to now. Other than this marriage, so we come across a general marriage types we have. We have certain rules for the marriage also, and general structure of the marriage we have, like polygamy, monogamy. Polygamy, look, we subdivide it as polygyny and also polyandry. Polygyny is where a man is marrying more than one time, by maintaining more than one wife at a time, sometimes simultaneously. Okay. And sometimes again, we talk about polyandry system, where a woman marries more than one time. Just now I quoted the example in tribal communities. Most of the tribal communities practice polyandry. So where women dominates the system and women takes up more than one time marriage. Okay. Now, polyandry system. Whenever you find polygamy, polygyny, man dominating that particular family, we say patriarchal system, patriarchal families. Or whenever you find a woman heading the system, heading the family, then we say matriarchal families. Okay, matriarchal family, women-led families. So matriarchal women gives her lineage to the children rather than the father giving the lineage to the children. Okay, but here in the patriarchal, a man is giving his lineage to the children, the name or descent or whatever it is, the surname, whatever it is, manam surname to identify chestam. Surname gavuchu, gotra gavuchu, whatever it is, the father's gotra, father's lineage will be given to the children. Okay. Then again, when you talk about monogamy, monogamy usually, when you say in India, we have Hinduism, we have Christianity, we have also Islam. Okay. So Hinduism practices go for monogamy. Christianity also practices monogamy. Monogamy means a man is required to marry only one time in his lifetime. Okay, only one marriage in his lifetime, no second marriage. But few exceptional cases where genuine reasons are there, either wife is not, maybe either of the partner may not have a healthy life. So some kind of disease or some kind of sickness in the lifetime, so the husband or wife is permitted in Hinduism, husband is permitted to go for second marriage. Okay. And big agricultural societies in the traditional period, because they require only the family members to work in the land poverty, they require a big number of family members. So that time the first wife has given permission for the husband to go for second marriage. Or in some cases in Hinduism, most of the time what we usually go with is the son birth. They usually want a son in the family. So if the issue is not the son is not born to the couple, they go for second child, third child, even the third child will be the son, or fourth and fifth child, girl child. So if the first wife is not giving them the son, then they permit, the first wife has to permit. Either she will be forced to permit the husband to go for second marriage. So second marriage, no, they accept, they feel that they may wish that the second wife may give a son birth. Okay. So that usually it is where most of the time on a very generous condition, some kind of very must conditions, the man can go for the second marriage. But divorce is not that simple in Hinduism. So they should have a mutual consent, and also there should be some compromising situation where wife and husband accepts only, they get the divorce. Otherwise, they have to sustain themselves with the same life. Okay. Then we come across Christian marriage. Even Christian marriage, we find only the monogamy. So they accept only single marriage for a man in the lifetime. Okay. So Hinduism and Christianity feels that marriage is a sacrament. Very, very chala pious, very pavitra minded. వివాహం అంటే ఒక పవిత్రమైనటువంటి ఘటన. అట్లే క్రిస్టియన్లో కూడా marriage is sacrament. That means if practice monogamy, you are bonded with the person, you are tied up with the person forever and ever. Fine. Not only this generation, but even for the next 7 generations, you are bonded together with the same partner. So that's the reason why, and not only that, but you are going to perform certain ritual practices, religious practices with your partner. So where this practice is very, very sacred in nature. So this is where we usually confine marriage as a sacrament. But when you talk about Islam community, Islam we find polygamy system where a man is permitted to go for more than one marriage. I think up to the limit is up to 4 or 5. Okay. So, but of course, first wife has to give the consent where the husband can go for the second marriage. Fine. And but economic security should be provided to the wife by the husband. Right? Otherwise, we have what is called, when I say polygamy system, whether it is a sacrament, no. In Islam, marriage is considered as a contract. Contract in the sense the husband and wife at the time of marriage, at the time of nikah, they're going to sign a bond. They're going to sign on the paper here. So that's how like until the man has interest in living with the wife, until he want to continue the family, fine. So of course mutuality will be there, but then still he has the liberty to give the talaq. So 3 times the triple talaq is there, fine. The marriage, the husband has the liberty to give talaq, whereby if he's not interested in continuing the life with the first wife. So of course now the mutual consent will be taken. That's a different matter, but every talaq has some gap in between. The time period is given for every second talaq also. First and second and third talaq, there should be some 40 days in time or 1 hour, 1 month time it's gave from the first talaq to the second talaq. Why? Because there may be a mutual consensus, there may be some kind of compromising with husband, but and they may wish to live together. So that's understanding should be there between husband and wife. So that gap in between first talaq and the second talaq is always given. Okay, fine. So this is how we usually try to talk about all these 3 institutions in the Indian society. Okay, so I'll stop for today here. We'll continue our class tomorrow. I just continue with the kinship and the other topics, and the next topic, social change in India. Hope you all followed what I explained. Okay, we'll meet tomorrow for the class at the same time, 12 o'clock. Okay, thank you all.